Chapter 3 Publishing Process.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Orion podcast. And today, me, Atish, is going to be the host once again since no one stepped up. Anyways, so today we are going to discuss about publishing original English light novels. And since we are not yet published author, we brought in a special guest. His name is Josh Piedra, and he's an already published original English light novel author. And so, Josh, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Josh. I am the author of Final Hope and AR Dragonfly, both are original English light novels, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Great to have you here, Josh.
Lovely to meet you.
Same here. Like, really thankful that you said yes when we asked you to join us.
I was thinking about saying no, but I was kind of mean, so I'm like, I might as well be nice and say yes.
Well, thanks for going that way.
Yeah. Oh, so before we begin, Josh, can you tell us a bit about your novel?
Sure. Right now I have two of them that are published. The first one is a very short series that goes only 2 volumes called Final Hope. It's basically like a time travel murder mystery type of light novel about a guy named Mikomi who takes over his father's company called Onyx Technology Ventures, and he's looking to complete his father's work in advanced AI. And right when he's about to announce that to the world, he gets shot and killed in the parking lot at night. But instead of dying, he wakes up 10 years in the past in his 14-year-old body, where he meets a custodian of time named Sebastian, and he goes to hunt down his killer. But at the same time, he realizes with a second chance, he can change some of the more unpleasant aspects of his life. And he doesn't realize that the more that he changes, the more the world responds to those changes. So it was kind of a cool little concept that I based off of an anime called Steins Gate, which is one of my favorites. Time travel and AI are my top 2 favorite genres of science fiction. So I decided to try my hand at that. And it's kind of like an introduction to writing books and publishing. And, after doing AR Dragonfly, I kind of want to go back at some point and redo it since I've learned so much. But that's just part of the writing process. As far as AR Dragonfly goes, that one's still ongoing. I have 9 volumes published so far. It's going to be a 12-volume series. And it's about a girl named Amber Ryan. She is a pro gamer of esports levels. She has a dual personality where when she's behind the keyboard, she's very extroverted, very snarky, typical gamer type person. And then out in the real world, though, she has soul-crushing social anxiety. So she gets into this rivalry with an online opponent named Kane, who basically just comes out of nowhere and beats her over and over again, and eventually takes her #1 spot on the Blazor's leaderboards. And that just eats away at her and eats away with her. But then the question happens, what happens when the two of them meet in real life? And that kind of starts off a slice of life romance story. So those are a couple of books I have, and I have a new one coming out, which we can probably discuss later. Save a little bit of tidbits.
Okay, I love the first one, the one that related to Steins Gate. I'm definitely gonna go read it. And guys, if you want to read Josh's book, the links are in the description below. Go and read it already. It's going to be amazing. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna do the same thing.
Yes, read all the books, absorb them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll get to them eventually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and if this video hits 1K likes, then we will do a giveaway of Josh's book, the first one.
Hey,
You,
there
you
go.
better
There's some
promise that,
incentive.
dude. You better promise that.
Yeah, if we get
Yes.
1K, we'll definitely do that.
Smash that like button, people. Get yourself some free stuff.
Yeah. So
And
before
subscribe.
we move on to the
Subscribe.
publishing aspect, guys, if you're watching this, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon for the notifications. And please comment down and share this video as much as you can, because we are working really hard to bring you this kind of content. So yeah, moving on. Jay, let's begin the question answer session.
Oh, yeah. For the publication process, Josh, I have a few questions for you that include about where do you publish your works?
Right now on Amazon, it is a little limiting as far as like what you can do. I have a lot of like qualms with like some of the stuff, but it is like the easiest at the same time because it gives you such a broad like audience. Amazon obviously is like the biggest retailer in the entire world, and if you know some like the tricks and the back ends to it, you can get a lot of exposure through that. And since they handle pretty much the printing of the books and the copyright and the ISBNs and all that stuff for you, most of it with no charge, it's actually very convenient for authors to publish on there. And with them doing physical copies and of course Kindle and Kindle Unlimited and digital stuff like that, it gives you a lot of flexibility and variety to choose from too. So like I said, there is some issues with it, like with categorizing your book. You only get like a handful of things you can choose from if you want specific things, which unfortunately light novels is one of those specific things. You have to email them every single time, like, all right, this is the path that this should be for your category, please change it. And then within 72 hours they'll screw it up and you got to talk to them again, and then they'll screw it up again, and then you're like, no, this is the path, it's in plain English, please read it and do this. It was a mess trying to get all my books to be categorized as light novels, but once you kind of annoy them enough, they basically escalated to like someone who knows what they're doing, and then they finally do it. Like that's like my biggest issue with Amazon. Outside of that, it's
so. That's what I was gonna ask. Actually, was how do you feel that you are a light novel author, right?
Right.
Yeah, and how do you feel as a light novel author to be in the sea of like the regular novels? How do you feel that in the sea of Amazon?
Honestly, I just got my books categorized as light novels about a month ago, and my rankings are like in the 1800s, which I don't know if that's good or not, because I don't know exactly how many light novels are on Amazon, but it's definitely a lot higher than other categories where my books were like in the millions. So when I see like a number that's only 4 digits long instead of 7, I'm like, oh, that's kind of good.
I have another question for you, if you don't mind. What is your advice to new authors who are wanting to publish their work? What should they use? As you said, you use Amazon. Is that like friendly for newer authors?
It is. I would probably say do your research, because I know there's like Smashwords out there as well, and there's other different sites, and they all offer certain things, and you got to be careful because a lot of times they want like exclusivity to your works, where it's like if you publish here you can't publish anywhere else. I know Amazon is like that with the Kindle aspect. So if you're doing digital and you enroll in the KDP Select, which gives you a broader scope, you will not be able to publish your works on any other platform because you basically sign that exclusivity to Kindle. But if you don't do Kindle Select, then you're free to do what you want. So it's kind of like, do you want the higher royalties with the bigger audience, or do you want multiple platforms? So you kind of got to look into it and see what you actually want out of it yourself. And if you're happy with just sticking with one thing, then I think Amazon would be a great way to go. It is user friendly. When you get into the back end, you have your book details, like the title, your author, your illustrator, and all other stuff, your categories. Then they have the ability to upload your document, which they prefer PDF, and then they have a cover creator if you don't have a cover, or if you do have one, you can submit it that way as well. Also needs to be PDF, and then you fill out your pricing, and then you wait 72 hours, and then they take care of it. I mean, they give you a barcode for you for free. They take care of the copyright stuff for you for free. So it is pretty good. And I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's CreateSpace was the publishing company that Amazon had bought. So if you've used that before, or if you've heard of it, that's basically what they've become. They just folded it into the grand scheme of things at Amazon, and it's great. So that's just my personal preference because I've used them, but I do know there's other services out there. So I would just say do your homework. I mean, it's pretty much what you would do with anything. Just do your research, see what fits best for you. If you want multiple platforms, find stuff that's not going to tie you down to their site, and just go from there.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. But for the time being, in my case, I'm more interested in like reaching out to a wider audience over getting a lot of royalties. So I guess the multiple platforms is something, but But I'll also check out Amazon as well.
That's a thing that you should weigh out yourself, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it differs for every author how they want to be seen by the audience.
Yeah, I mean,
but like-
if you want to just like do like an audience thing and you're not worried about, you know, making money off the books or anything like that, I mean, there's like Honeyfeed and Wattpad and all these other online services where you can do chapter by chapter, you can do full volumes, and, you know, you can reach a different audience that way too. So there's a lot of options out there. You just got to, you know, look it up and do the research and figure out what you want.
We've already got the Honeyfeed part covered.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
If you don't know that yet, guys, you better check out our previous podcast on explaining light novels, original English light novels, and also Honeyfeed. So moving back, Josh, you said that Amazon helps you pretty much with like 80% of the stuff, and that you just have to be the author, right?
Right, pretty much. Just be the author, write the stuff, and then they take care of it all.
How do they help you market your work? Do they put it up for a few, you know, for like, do they market it like recommendations to people based on statistics, etc.? I don't know.
They do, but you have to pay for that part of it. So the whole publishing side of it is basically free. But if you want to do marketing through Amazon, then you have to go through their advertising services. And it's no different than, you know, running an ad on Facebook or Twitter or Google AdWords, you know, anything like that. It's your subscription thing. You set a budget, you take your audience, and then they handle it. But that's pretty much as far as they go with marketing.
I see. Because, you know, as for all authors, I don't know, it's always a pain to have an audience. We spend all the time, as a new author, we spend all the time gathering new readers to read your books, give feedback, etc. And it's a very apparent kind of problem, especially for those new to the business.
Yeah, it is. And the funny thing is, marketing is the hardest part of it all. I mean, it's all on you. I mean, as an independent author, you have to know what to do. And even when you do know, I mean, it's still an uphill battle.
Yeah. I have a question for like everyone, actually, especially to those who are still new to the thing. How do you all do self-marketing? How do you get readers to read your book? If you could answer that, then that's really great.
So, well, the simplest way I go for it is I tweet a lot about my novel, but I tweet new chapters, character illustrations, and sometimes even excerpts of an upcoming chapter I'll be publishing online. Those are the basics I go with, and I try to find ways to make the post an interesting read. Like the excerpts was one idea, but I tried when it came to like showing my character illustrations. I don't just simply post their completed artworks. I actually post it from the very beginning, like their initial sketch, maybe a small part of them. So I'm like taking my followers on an artistic journey in real time as me and my artist work together on completing this character.
Ooh, yeah. That's actually pretty smart, because what I think, in my opinion, if you reach out to your readers, it also gives that kind of reader-author bond that helps create, you know, it feels more closer, and then that's what readers like.
And if I can, I try give followers a choice. I once tried asking for their opinion on a certain character's hair color. Like I gave 3 different shades, and I saw what people chose, and both my illustrator, and I, well, we were actually leaning towards their choice as well. So far it's been lucky. Like so far nobody has picked something that like opposes us. So that's
Cosmo, what do you do to make your, you know, readers? You're still new to this thing, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of new, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask what do you do as a new author? How it feels to, you know, gather the readers to you to read, you know, the Saint, what's it called? Saint Adeline?
Yeah, of Saint Adeline. Well, to be honest, I'm a very shy person, extremely introverted outside of the digital world. So whenever I need to get readers, what I do is I go to my best friend and then I just tell her that I wrote a book, and then she'll be like, go tell the other classmates. And I'm like, no, they won't read it, you know? And then they're like, no, they'll read it, just put it. And then with her assertion, I would like just either take glimpses of my chapter and make a post out of it and then put it on my story and all that. And then my classmates will see it, and a few good people would just circulate it, and then I just, you know, get them to read my story.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
There are many ways to get your story to other ears.
So, Josh, as a seasoned author, as I can say, I don't know, what do you do to make new authors read your work?
I pretty much have done the basic checklist of marketing. So they always recommend like have social media, have a blog, do giveaways, all this other fun stuff. So I've done all of that, and the only thing I haven't done yet was actually do an ad campaign through Google or Facebook or anything like that. But I mean, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I have my own blog website. I've given away free copies of my books, did contests, things of that nature. I just also just started, going around the OELN community and just started talking to people and, got more followers that way and tried my best like every day to interact with them and, just keep up to date and, see what they're doing, all that fun stuff, and just start and build an audience. And at first it was rough. Like I sold a book, like maybe one copy every 3 months. So it was like really rough. And now I'm averaging about a copy every 8 to 9 days. So that's over a period of, I would say, like 3 years. So it's a long process and you're always constantly fighting it. And it's kind of weird to see it grow too, because, you put all this time and effort into it and then you see the numbers slowly go up. And in the back of your mind, obviously everyone who writes a book is like, I want to get this out to as many people as possible. And I want to, sell a whole bunch of copies. And then the reality is that sometimes it happens for people and sometimes it's a slow process. So when you see the numbers go up slowly, it's kind of disappointing and satisfying at the same time, because at the same time, it's like 3 years of writing, you're like, oh, I'm only gotten that much. But at the same time, it's like looking back at where you were, like, oh, now I've gotten that much, So it's kind of like a weird feeling like that.
Progress is always a beautiful thing, even if it's slow.
Gio, what's your writing process? How would you normally write, let's say, a chapter in the book?
Let me be honest with you there. I don't always follow the process that I've set upon myself because there are many things that can get in my way. But my ideal way to write a chapter is that I get the story down first, just write down what I want to happen in the story. Even if the grammar or the prose is poor, I just try to get the story down as soon as possible before I edit. Because for me, editing is my favorite part actually of writing a chapter rather than writing new content. Don't get me wrong, it's always fun whenever you make something new. But what I like most about editing is because I'm making something better. Like I may have written it like this and I was probably feeling a little satisfied, but there's always a way I can turn it to something more. So what gets in my way is that sometimes when I'm in the middle of writing a certain part, there's something in my head telling me this is how to perfectly write it. Like it's telling me how the words should be, like the positioning of each words, and I don't want to end up forgetting it. So that can often make me take more time on a single paragraph just to get it done right. And that's a recurring issue I have. But whenever it's not happening, I just go along my own way. And also when it comes to writing, for me, my best ideas and the best way to write something often come when I'm not writing at all, when I'm doing anything but writing. There are many moments that maybe I'm just driving on the road and then the perfect way to write this paragraph plays itself in my head. The whole paragraph itself, as in from the way I originally wrote it, and then it suddenly changes to like a way better version. So ever since those things started to happen more often, I usually have my phone's notepad app ready for me to just write. So that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, wow. That's different from how I write, because usually how I would write is, I always go by the rule and I try to set out a plan, and then, that kind of thing where you try to set up like bullet points, etc., and then try to connect it all up.
Outlines, you mean an outline?
Yeah, outline. There you go. Yeah, thank you.
I do outlines also, but I just make them more general this time. I make my outlines general. Back then they used to be specific, but what always happens is when I get to that point, a better idea suddenly pops in, and the specified, I end up like something completely different from what I originally specified. So I keep it general, like what's the most important event that should happen, and what else happens alongside it, it's all open there.
Wow. How about you, Atish? What's your writing process?
Actually, I'm more of a discovery writer, so I never make outlines and stuff like that. I just write. I just keep on writing whatever comes in my brain. I have the story, I have the plot, I have the characters, I'll write. There are times when I get stuck and then I have to do the outline. So there's been a lot of instances during the chapter 4 and 5 of Avalon where I had to write the outline because I wasn't able to write without doing the outline and stuff.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's also different from me. me.
Like I tried the bullets, I tried the outline, but what happened is if the story doesn't go the way I want it to go, it just messes with my brain. Yeah, what happened is like according to this guidelines, but the story strays away. It strays away from that. Then I don't even want to write again after that. Why the hell is it going away from the outline?
Yeah, that happens. So for Shane, I have a question for you. Is that what's your writing process?
So my writing process is to always keep the reader essentially guessing. I want to be just as confused as the reader or writer about what's going on just as myself. So I want to feel that surprise. So usually when I write my chapters, I think to myself, which characters fit this role? Who should be where? I put myself in the position of that environment. I envision everything that would be going on. So the world feels fluent and everything feels right. I think about, who would walk through this door first? Which character would take that lead? So I think about who everyone is and then put everyone in their appropriate place versus just randomly writing, this person's here because they're my favorite, or putting one person in all the great situations because apparently his luck is that great.
Wow.
You got to give the right roles to the right characters, no matter whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
And it also reminds me, something I didn't mention about my writing process. I often write the end first.
Wow.
So I could spend the rest of the time playing around with the reader.
Wow. So lastly, Josh, what's your writing process, if we can ask?
Yeah, I'm curious.
It changed a lot from Final Hope to AR Dragonfly. In Final Hope, I had the beginning, the middle, and the ending already in mind. So I tried doing discovery writing with each chapter, building up to those major plot points. And when I did that, I found myself trying to edit my work after I'd written it. So I would spend days and days in the first chapter after I wrote it and went back and then did all these edits. And then I would realize that, I got to keep moving. And then, the second chapter came and then I did the same thing and it was taking forever. And at the same time, it's like trying to come up with ideas on the fly. It was just overwhelming me. So I kind of finished that and I learned from that. And then in AR Dragonfly, I didn't like just sticking with an outline because I did enjoy some aspects of discovery writing. I realized that as I write, an idea is going to pop up from time to time. So I kind of did the bullet point system, but I left it wide open. So like, for example, without giving away spoilers to anyone who hasn't written it, the first volume of AR Dragonfly, the first chapter, like the bullet point says, stays up all night gaming on Blazoras, falls asleep in a clothes pile, wakes up to the sound of a UPS dropping off a package. Those are like my bullet points. And then I just go in between each of those points and I flesh it out through discovery writing that way while staying within the guideline. And it worked out a lot better for me that way because it gave me the creative freedom to write these scenarios and these different scenes. And if Amber goes to the kitchen, the bullet point would say goes to the kitchen and makes lunch, but it's like, what does she have for lunch? And I had to think, what's in her kitchen? What does she feel like eating? And helps that way. And then the editing process is like going back and then changing that, just like you did with yours, Gio. You put all your stuff down on paper first, and then you're like, I don't care what it looks like as long as the basic idea is there. Then I can go back and change it the way I want, how I want it afterwards when I do editing. So like same thing with Amber's dialogue, like the way she speaks, she has her own way of speaking. I'll just put down, hey guys, what's up, as her line, and then I'll go back and say like, that's not how Amber sounds, and just change it like something like, suh, dude, something like that. So it's
yeah, that's so true. That's how I roll also.
Yeah. So it's fun doing it that way, and I've enjoyed it. I've also put a whole ton of references into AR Dragonfly for like pop culture, and one of those references ended up being something that I think I'm going to stick with most of my novels, and it's a nod to the band Tool. Tool's my favorite progressive metal band of all time. Just my favorite band altogether. And I read before writing AR Dragonfly that their next album, which came out last year called Fear Inoculum, was supposed to be all written in the 7-time signature. And instead of like with Final Hope, like just guessing the amount of chapters each volume would have, I'm like, what if I paid a homage to Tool and wrote every volume with 7 chapters? And then when I did that, I discovered that 7 seems to be like a very magical number for me because I can structure every book from beginning to end as far as like what the plot goes, the storyline for that book, and how it ties into the next one perfectly with 7 chapters. And it helped me block off all those ideas that I had. It helped me structure the book. And when you know how many chapters you're aiming for, you can kind of also control how long each chapter is, what plot points you want to have in each chapter, who focuses on what character, and all that fun stuff. And it just made things a lot easier. So that actually, it was funny because it was like a reference, a meme reference, and it turned into part of my writing style to have 7 chapters in every book. So yeah, it's an evolving process, and I'm still learning more stuff, even with AR that I'm going to carry on to my next series. So, you might find something you like, you might find something that works better. It's always, evolving as a writer.
Yeah, we're always definitely changing. We all definitely were different than when we first started writing. That's for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
When I started, I was called the city writer by everyone.
We all had to start somewhere, so we were all pretty shitty. So
Yeah.
I still have to work on this grammar thing, so.
Yeah, it comes with time. Don't worry.
when it comes to writing, one of the things I struggle with the most is word count. Josh, I'm curious to know, is it okay if you could give me an estimate of how much words you often put in each volume? Like an estimate?
That's one of the things I learned with AR Dragonfly. I actually had to go back to Final Hope for this one, because when I was doing research on how long is a light novel, they basically said that it's between 180 to 250 pages typically, and then sometimes you can go to 300 or whatever, but the typical guideline is that much. So I wrote the first volume of Final Hope, and when I did the page count, I'm like 192. I'm like, oh, perfect, I hit it. Then I realized it was 192 pages of 8.5 by 11 paper, and the books are 8.5 by 5.5, and it ended up being 320 pages. And I'm just like, whoops. So in the second volume of Final Hope, I kind of hit the mark. So that's why when you get volume 1, it's like a huge, thick, like something you could beat someone over the head with. And then volume 2 is like an actual light novel size. And, and the thing is, I carried that forward with AR Dragonfly. So the first 4 volumes are kind of like, that novella size. If you're not familiar with light novel in the United States, it's novella, but it's about that size. And then I ran into the problem of feedback. People are like, the books are too quick. And, I understand in Japan, that's kind of how they are. They're called light novels for a reason. They're meant to be consumed in like a couple of hours. But in America, when we're, marketing to English readers, they're used to, the American book size. So light
Harry
novels
Potter.
become too fast. Yeah. So basically, I started increasing the content, and now I'm back to where Final Hope Volume 1 was, with each book being anywhere between 280 to 330 pages. And people seem to enjoy that more. So it's kind of funny when you say, like, what's the word count? Because you want to think in terms of light novels, like, okay, so it's about 50,000 words, give or take. But then when you realize you're marketing to an audience that's not used to the books that short, now you're going back to actual novel size. So yeah, now my books are anywhere between 75 to 80,000 words.
Yeah.
75 to 80,000.
JJ, if I can ask you one quick question, I often run into this issue, and I kind of want to see how you tackle it. How do you determine what is a good place to end a chapter? Like, how do you end your chapters while you're writing?
So when I adopted the 7 chapter rule for each book, I came up with the idea to always end it on a cliffhanger. So I envisioned every volume of AR Dragonfly, even with Final Hope, as an anime series. So like you get into like an anime that has 12 episodes. Every episode, or in this case, every chapter, leaves you, well, at least a good anime would leave you wanting more on the next episode. So I would kind of like look at the end of each chapter as that stopping point for an episode of anime. But I realized that they're connecting, and you don't have to wait till next week to see what happens. You just keep reading. So the first 6 chapters kind of end on not really a cliffhanger, but more of like an type of moment. And then the 7th chapter, where you do have to wait a few months for the next book to come out, that's where you hit them with, the big cliffhanger ending. So every book that I write, I try and think, what is the end point of this arc? And then how can I make that a hook in order to get people to pick up the next volume? So like at the end of volume 1 of AR Dragonfly, it's not really a big spoiler, so I don't mind giving it away. The ending is setting up the tournament arc, which happens in volume 2, and you realize the implications of what that tournament means for Amber. So it gives you that hook to like, I have to see how she fares in this tournament, because all of this is on the line now. And now she has her rival Kane, in her way. And if he does something to stop her, everything that she's working for just goes to crap, So that's kind of where you have to think. And then of course, as the series goes on and, there's more serious moments, you want to hit bigger cliffhangers. You just kind of want to do like a ramp up process too. You want to start off with a small cliffhanger in volume 1, and then maybe by the time volume 7 rolls around, you have like this major, plot that's built up, and you want to hit them with something harder, So like every volume is different, and you kind of have to like figure out where your story's going and what you want out of it, and then how do you get get them to read the next volume, and how does that tie into that story? So it takes a little bit of creativity and a little bit of thought, but that's basically how I approach it.
Since we were doing web novels, I think most of us were putting cliffhangers on the end of every chapter we published, since we were publishing them online, so chapter by chapter. And I think we had the same kind of mindset as you setting up the events of the next volume, except in our case, it was for the next chapter.
Yeah, that might work too. I mean, if your chapters are spaced out, weeks apart or something like that, you have to have something to get the readers to come back to read the next chapter. So it's almost the same as like publishing a volume.
Oh dear. My entire volume 1 of Parable of the Renegades takes place within the span of 2 days. It's over 128,000 words.
Wow.
God, I feel like my first volume is only going to be like 40,000 words. I got to do some work.
I really went into the details and stuff. So
I think, honestly speaking, guys, like word count is like, it's not about the word count for me. It's more about the, how the meat of the story.
I hope.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like to go with what you think, because if I didn't have to worry about word count, I wouldn't.
Well, the thing is, I noticed a lot of people are concerned with word count, and I see a lot of people posting on Twitter says, "Oh, I only did like 250 words today," or "I only wrote 1,000 words today," or something like that. And I know there's guidelines out there that say a light novel has to be around this amount of words, but the truth is, it's your story. If you can explain it in 20 words or 2,000 words, and the point gets across the same way, write what makes you feel comfortable. And if you feel accomplished with what you've written, then honestly, what does the word count matter? Obviously you can't publish a book that's like 10 words. You can't publish a single piece of paper, but I think a lot of pressure is put on newer writers because they feel they have to hit those goals when the whole point of writing is just to tell a story.
These people who are unhappy that they wrote only 250, 300 words, they're so lucky. Like me, when I complete writing a chapter, it's like, oh shit, I wrote 7,000 words.
And then when I edit it, it just goes like,
it's like, oh shit, it's 10,000 words.
Yeah.
We need to break that chapter. Yeah, because with me, the thing is, when I start writing, if I'm into the zone, then no one can stop me now. Like, I'm into it, I won't stop until I complete it. And it just goes on to 7,000, 8,000, sometimes 10,000 words. And the words keep flowing in. Like, you guys all have been in the zone sometime or someday. Like, when you get into that zone and your hands start moving on its own, the words keep on flowing, the ideas keeps on running, the characters are working, everything is going the way you want it to, and then it's just happening.
So yeah, I heard that Josh, that you are like an editor at Outer Haven. If you could explain what that is to us.
Yeah, so technically I have quote unquote 3 jobs. I have a Monday through Friday job which pays all my bills. I'm a content manager and graphic designer for a water blasting equipment company. And then on nights and weekends, I basically do a managing editing position at a website called theouterhaven.net. I basically head up the anime and manga department. So I do things such as post news stories, write articles, I do reviews of manga and anime, and all that fun stuff over there. So yeah, and of course the third job obviously is the author thing. So
and you're able to make time for it.
It's tough. I used to have a lot of free time where I got to play video games and, all the other fun stuff. And now my quote unquote free time of playing video games, watching anime, and reading manga are now all for review purposes. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, it's all about time management. I mean, I'm the type of person where it's like, if I have an hour to do something and I'm not doing anything, I need to find something to do, So I just plug in a lot of my time with other things, and Outer Haven is just one of them. It's a nice creative outlet for me. I've been writing there since 2014. So this is my 6th year there. So it's fun. I get to do, all the things I love in life, like anime, manga, and video games, and just write about them and just express myself. So it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. The link is in the description below, so if you guys could visit it, it's a very nice outlet for whoever about news, etc.
I think both Atish and I have articles published about our works in the Outer Haven, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Wow.
But I should probably use that as a bit of a segue. It's like, why do you guys have articles published on the Outer Haven? Well, this all stems back from the marketing process. And one of the things I tried my hand at with AR Dragonfly was I created press releases. And I sent those press releases out to Crunchyroll and Anime News Network. And I know Anime News Network kind of glossed over it, but I had hopes with Crunchyroll because I work for the Outer Haven. I have a partnership with them, and I actually have contacts within Crunchyroll. And I thought, hey, maybe I can use them to get them to post a story about my book. And fortunately, it never came about. And after months and months of trying on different volumes, I'm just sitting here like, it's so hard. I mean, I know I'm not a popular author. I know that original English light novels is a very niche thing, and there's a stigma about them that the anime community doesn't want to read them because they're not officially from Japan, and that English writers don't know how to make a book, and there's that big black cloud that's over our heads all the time. And it's like, I wish
And
there was
that's
just
so
one
wrong.
place.
They're dead wrong. Like, we are so much better than the Japanese counterpart, at least in the
That
translation.
is so bold.
Like, we're
That is
so
bold, man.
much better.
Well, I mean, it's true, because not every light novel in Japan is a hit. I mean, there are some pretty terrible light novels out there, just like any place else.
SAO.
They get animes for their cheap moments, like really cheap, like ecchi. I think like ecchi moments, for example.
Take it, that into the new world with my smartphone. Like, that was like SAO is
Throwing shade.
Shooting shot.
I was gonna say, I thought of that stigma. I was like, I wish there was some place that would actually, pay attention to the original English light novel community. I wish there was a place that would give them a chance. So I talked to Keith Mitchell, who was the editor-in-chief at the Outer Haven, and I said, hey, what would you say if I made Outer Haven the place to be for OELN authors to post their news stories about their books? And he's like, well, that's a good idea. Why don't you take it a step further and list them on the site? Like, what do you mean? He says, why don't we create a database where people can create a biography page and have them featured on the site, and if they have updates to it, you just send us the updates and we'll do it for them. And I'm like, well, that could work. So the original English light novel database was born, and now people can, if they have an OELN book, they can list it on the site in this database along with their profile. And anytime they want to promote the book, if it's a new release or if they're holding a contest or whatever, anything that they want to put for a news story out, just send it to me. And it takes like 5 minutes of my time to create an article for you guys, and I'll do it free of charge, because I figure there's so much cost in publishing a book, getting the author copies and shipping it. You got to pay your illustrator. If you do your self editing, you're saving money. But if you're paying an editor, that's more of an expense there. You don't need another expense to advertise your book. So I was like, screw it, I'll do it for free. It only takes 5 minutes of my time to do an article. So why should I charge for that? So that's what I did with the Outer Haven. So like I said, anyone who wants to submit news about their OELN, send it over. And then, if you want to get listed on the site with the database, by all means, go ahead and send me your biography, fill out the form that's on theouterhaven.net, and then we'll list you on the table and you can be in the database. So all free of charge.
Much for doing that. I don't know if everyone is here Outer Haven database, but most of us are, and we are super thankful for you, all of you in Outer Haven, for doing all of this stuff for the authors, specifically to the OELN authors. And because, as you said, there's this big black shadow over us, and it's just like kind of an undermined genre of literature, that shouldn't be, because we are our own set of people, and we have so much things to offer to the general audience.
Yeah, that's true. Thing is, because of Outer Haven, a lot of us got, at least for me, I got inspired to push Orion to the next level. That's why I'm doing all this stuff. I want people to know us. I won't say something like I want to go out and so that the world can see what I'm doing, but I want to keep on doing what I do, and then one day the world might come find us, because talent is not something that is meant to be kept. It is something that is meant to be shown to the world.
Yeah,
so we need to
I
go
agree.
all out.
Wholeheartedly.
I agree.
And even all the writers who are listening to this, don't get disheartened. It's tough. It's going to get tougher, but we and all OELN community, we're going to work harder together and with united, and we're going to get there. This decade is going to be ours.
Support each other here, and as we said, you can visit Outer Haven, put your name up in the list, or you can even just mail us through Twitter, which will be the links of our Twitter handles down in the description.
I'll put the official email ID. You can just mail us if you want any help. And my DMs are always open on Instagram as well as on Twitter. As well as the Orion official Instagram account is always open for you. To help you. And if you actually really want to write a light novel, then already start writing. Don't think that you can't write. Just don't think anything. Just start it and come to Honeyfeed, post it over there, and we'll give you a good feedback. So don't hold back. Just go out there, and the world will find you.
Yeah.
Don't need to go through professional training as well.
Yeah, there's no need.
Just be
And
amateur.
trust me.
That's it for us today, guys. Remind to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. And of course, click on the bell notification icon. And we're gonna see you next time next week.
Before we leave, Josh, a question. What's your favorite light novel?
Mine? No, just kidding. Believe it or not, my favorite light novel is actually an OELN, and it's called Beyond the Dome, Blue Collared Hero by Carrie Mills. It was actually one of the first ones I've read, and this is what made me believe that OELNs have a place and that they can actually be just as good, if not better, than actual official quote-unquote light novels from Japan. So, Carrie and I have been good friends. She actually was the first person to ever do a review for Final Hope and AR Dragonfly, and then, I helped her put together her book for physical release. So, I just love that novel, not because of the friendship or anything, but it's because, like I said, it's the first one, and the first one usually gives you the best impression. And, other light novels I've read, Prize of the Spear Hero, I've read Regular from Magic High School, I've read all these official series, but I would take hers and put it above the others because I thought it was so well written. I could imagine, the world that she wrote, the characters, their personalities, and that, I feel that a lot of authors out there can do to prove themselves that they are better than the official works. And like I said, that will remove that black cloud in time. So yeah, that is currently my favorite light novel.
I'm with you there, Josh. My favorite light novels are also OELNs, mostly from Brandon Varnell. But
I want to say, you see that our viewers, OELNs are better than light novels. Come on, go and buy it already. Buy Josh's book and all the OELN that are already published. Help us out. Come on.
Yeah, do that. Do that, guys. Just don't be losers. Be the cool.
Bookwalker, once again, please sponsor us.
See you next week, next time.
Yeah.